G'day folks, new review today. This is the Garmin Montana 750i. Now, I've bought this myself. This isn't a sponsored review or anything, and the reason I'm doing this review is because when I went to buy it, I couldn't find any genuine, honest reviews out there. They were all either sponsored or from Garmin themselves, so I thought I'd bite the bullet. We'll have a look over this unit and I'll tell you the real nuts and bolts of it and pros and cons. Let's get into it. So in the new Montana lineup, there is 3 in the 700 series. You've got the 700, the 700i, and the 750i. The I stands for Iridium, which is basically a satellite connection. What's in the box? Not much. Well, nothing that you don't need really. You get, obviously, the unit, the battery, and a cord, so don't really need that. Alright, so what is it? It's a GPS, it's a communicator, and an SOS beacon. Now, I've got a few Garmin products and a few other things I've had in the past for beacons and communications and whatnot. This doesn't do everything, but it does quite a few. So I've upgraded from an inReach device, and I'm just going to move over to this for a few reasons. I want something that I can use on my motorbike, so attach to my motorbike, use it for navigation, but have that SOS feature there. And you know, if I break down, I can get a message out for help. So in a nutshell, it's a fantastic GPS navigation device with a few others extras rolled in. So I'll go through those, just the basic features. These are really involved. There really is a lot in these units. I'm not going to go and pick all through it. I'll just give you the features that are practical use for my use, and you know, you can make your own decision based on that. So because this is a Iridium device, you've got to think of it as a bit like a phone with a phone plan. The 700 by itself, obviously just set and forget, away you go, no more ongoing fees. But because with the Iridium stuff, it needs to connect to a network. So you're going to have a joining fee, which is a one-off fee, and then you're going to have a plan. So just like your phone, you can pick your plans. I've gone for the most basic plan. It's here in Australia, it's about $20 a month. Now that's a contract for 12 months. You can have the option to go a freedom plan, so you just pay by month as you go. It's a little bit more, it's like $20, $25, something like that. So for the guys that are only kind of using them seasonally, that'd be the way to go. For me, I'm out there enough that I can kind of justify having it on all the time. If you hold down your SOS, does the countdown, activates it, it's going to send a signal via the Iridium network to your local SES and rescue services or any emergency services that's going to respond to you depending on your situation. The really powerful thing for me is that I can communicate with either device to device, device to mobile, or device to email anywhere that I don't have phone reception. But let's say a scenario would be, for me, I get to an area and it's already occupied. I might go, oh, I'm not going to stay here, I'm going to move. But I've told my mates that are coming the next day or so, that's where I'm going to be. So I can message them and say, hey, change of plans, this is my new camp. And what it'll do, it'll send a message with my location, with a little satellite image of where I am, the coordinates, and my message attached, and the right of reply. So they can then reply to me and we can have a conversation about it. Or for instance, I break down in my vehicle in a remote spot. I don't want the SES to come, but I need help. I could get a buddy to bring me up some fuel or some parts, or once upon a time I locked my keys in the car. I didn't want to break my window, but I was able to get word out and say, hey, can someone bring up my spare key so I can get back into my car? So it's handy in that respect. So we'll just briefly go through the interface on the Montana. The buttons down the bottom here, you can cycle through, so obviously that's your map. Moving around is just on the touchscreen. The home button gives you all your menu that would be familiar to the guys that have had Garmin products before. You can get to places a few different ways. For instance, the inReach is up here, but it's also down in here as a shortcut. Quickly over to your compass, just to your navigation data there. The inReach, the search feature is good if you're looking for, if you're navigating with this on the road, for instance. There's lots of things in there like your fuel services and your tracks and stuff like that. And most of this is customizable as well. I'll just quickly go over a few pros and cons. I'll keep it pretty light. Straight away, I'll just turn it on, one of the big pros for me is the startup time and the lock on. So bang, that's on maybe a couple of seconds. It'll find me really quickly. And what we've noticed compared to the other older inReach devices is, I'm not sure why this is, but maybe it's a more powerful antenna, but the response time for text, so when you send a text out, my old unit could take 15 to 20 minutes to get a message out, so it's obviously waiting for the right satellite strength to come over. So in open ground, I'm getting almost instantaneous messages out. Receiving is almost the same as well. So if I'm sitting side by side with someone with their mobile phone or another device, and from my testing I send it, it's within kind of 100 seconds. It's very, very fast. I don't know if that's just because we're in a very, very open area here. I need to do more testing in really steep country or with heavy cover and see if that affects it. But compared to the same testing in my other units, this is definitely superior in that respect. So a big pro on that. The screen is very legible, even in daylight. Everyone says it's kind of really bright. I don't think it's any brighter than the Rhino. I'll do a side by side for you there. On its brightest, in the sun, in the daylight, it's still very, very legible. Another big pro is that they come fully loaded with Topo, the full version of Topo Australia, New Zealand. So that's a big bonus. You'd expect to get that with a premium product like this. These units have got Wi-Fi built in, so I know it's really annoying when there's an update or something like that, and you've got to, fire up the computer, log into Basecamp or Garmin Express, plug it in, run the update. They can go straight to the device, so that's a nice touch. You can also, being that it's Wi-Fi compatible, you can download your map straight to the device. So if you want to say bird's eye and you wanted to mark it a bit, you can there's a lot more you can do because it's Wi-Fi enabled. Another big pro from having a Rhino and other Garmin devices, I find the accuracy of your finger when you touch the screen, there's a lot to be desired there. This one, however, is more like your phone. It is very accurate. It's got a keyboard on the screen. On previous units like the Rhino, for instance, you could press a letter and it would jump to the letter next to that. It was quite frustrating if you were trying to type a message or type anything, in fact. This is very precise. The processor is very fast and it will keep up with your typing. So I find that a big step forward compared to the last unit. So yeah, big pro there. Charging can be done with the USB battery pack, so out in the field, and it seems to charge quite fast. That said, the Garmin are quoting about 2 weeks on standby on these units and approximately, I think they say 48 hours continuous use. Now, I'm not sure if I need a patch. I'm all up to date at the moment. I'm not sure if Garmin's going to do a patch like they did on the Rhino, but for me so far, my battery life is woeful. I'm not getting anywhere near that. In fact, I can turn it on and just leave the screen off, just on standby, and put it on the counter in the morning, and I'll get about 8 hours of it without interacting, and it's done. So for such a big, heavy unit with a big battery, that's pretty disappointing because for me, when I'm out 3, 4, 5 days, that isn't just going to cut it, and the amount that I'd have to charge, it'd just eat up my battery bank. So I'm hoping that is the same case that the Rhino was, and we had a few battery issues when they first came out because these have just been released, so it's very, very new. But yeah, that's something that I hopefully is addressed. So weight of this unit, so it's a smidge over 400 grams, 410 grams, kind of 19 by 7 by 3. It's a big unit. Integrated into the housing are these clamps here. So you can buy a range of mounts, which is kind of typical for Garmin products, but they're pretty expensive, so keep that in mind. If you wanted to just clip this to something, even a carabiner, you've got a loop here for that, but it doesn't come with anything, so you're gonna have to come up with your own way of securing this if you need it secured. And of course, mounting, there's a range of mounts, ATV mounts, motorbike mounts, suction cap mounts, you name it. They're powered, data cable enabled, but they are pretty exy, so yeah, keep that in mind. That's going to be in addition to the cost of the unit. So from the main screen here, if you hit the power button just once, it'll bring you over to a shortcut where you can adjust the screen brightness, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, shortcut to the camera. It's probably the easiest way to get to it. your weather to active weather shortcut up there with your forecasting radar and whatnot, as long as you're obviously on the network. Does have a torch built in. This is the little shortcut to the torch. It's not the best torch. It's enough to see kind of down to your feet, but you certainly can't kind of navigate in the bush with it. It's good as a backup, I suppose, but yeah, you get that. Obviously notifications from your paired device, if you want them to come through, you can have that on as well. So yeah, that's what's entailed in the power button there. These little contacts here are for obviously your series of cradles where it can charge and get all its data and points through that. About Bird's Eye. Now, in the advertising it says it comes with Bird's Eye. Now, when I set this up, and I don't know if this is going to roll over, but basically it told me I have 12 months of Bird's Eye. So hopefully that will just roll over in the next 12 months, but it does say it's there for 12 months. So I hope that that's not the case. But in the past, I've used Bird's Eye on 650 rhinos on older units, and Bird's Eye, if you're not familiar with Bird's Eye, it's satellite imagery. It's just like Google Earth, but it's Garmin's version of it. So you marquee the area you're interested in, it downloads those images to your device, and that way when you're out in the field navigating, you can see yourself overlaid or superimposed in that area. Now, that's great in theory, and lots of other systems and units do that. But I always thought that the Bird's Eye quality was indicative of the screen that I was using, because it was always barely legible. You come in on, say, Google Earth, I can zoom right down and see a car or a person standing next to the car, for instance. With Bird's Eye, the resolution, it's so poor, it's not even really worth using. I mean, I use Google Earth a lot to identify the type of plant structure is there on the ground before I go there, so I'll know if that's a big seam of gums or a swampy area or snow gums or whatever. With Bird's Eye, I've downloaded some onto this, being that this is a great screen and really crisp and sharp, thinking that this will be much better, but it's still the terrible pixelated Google, and I'll give you a close-up of that. It's just, for me, for looking for clearings and stuff, when you're out at, say, 200 to 300 meters above, it's not too bad, but yeah, going riding and looking for the detail, it's just not going to cut it. One of the big reasons I wanted to go for this Montana is my previous InReach device had weather reporting. So what you would do is you would request a weather report, and it's a really handy feature because it will obviously give you a weather report accurate to your location. So up where we are in the mountains, the weather reports are very vague. They're actually over a really big area and they're not very accurate, so you're really kind of taking a lot of guesses. And then once you go out for maybe 2 or 3 days, they're not current. So being able to get weather out while we're hunting and while we're moving around, it's a great thing, especially to kind of guess what the deer movements are going to be. And we could basically request a weather report and it would come back to your location. So this can still do that. It can also project a location. So if I know where I'm going to be the next day, I might be moving, I can actually get a current weather report when I'm off the grid of another location, which is a great feature. Now, in addition to that, Garmin's developed active weather. Now, active weather was supposed to give me live radar and a current forecast live to my location, a bit like what you'd see on your weather reports, time by time and day by day. Now, on Garmin's website, it's very hard to work out, and I've asked Garmin directly. I've asked the sponsored reviewers what the lowdown is with, do you need phone reception? Does it need to be tethered to a cellular device to get this this active weather radar? Now, on Garmin's device, they have a map, and it says, and it's a map of where this active weather feature will work. And it's virtually everywhere in Australia except for a little bit in the centre there, as you can see. Now, nowhere on the site or in the advertising was it clear that of how this would work until I got my device and opened it up, and there in black and white, really easy to read, is the fact that you do need a cellular device that's on a current that's got current service. So you're going to need internet service basically. I mean, if I'm out there and and I want to get a weather report, I can go through and kind of waste the battery on this device and go through and find this weather. But if I've got my phone in there and it's tethered to the phone anyway, why wouldn't I just pull my phone out and look on my current app on my phone? To me, it's really missed the mark on this one. Not only that, when it is working, it's so clunky, it's not really usable. The refresh rate on the radar, the detail of the radar, it's woeful. Your phone app, a simple phone app, is so much better than what this offers in that feature. And that, to be honest, was one of the main reasons that I got this, to have live radar and see clouds with rain coming at me, and knowing when I need to, set up a tarp and take cover, and knowing how long I'm going to be hunkered down for, so when that passes I can get back to the job. Now, that's a massive deal breaker. That's a big letdown, because the way it's advertised is, for me, it feels like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors when they're pitching this, yet when you get it, to find that you need reception, when the whole point of this device is when you don't have phone reception. Otherwise I just use my smartphone, right? So yeah, big miss for me on that one. One of the big differences from the 750 and the other units is the camera. 8 megapixel camera. Now, the idea with the camera is when I get to, say, a wallow or a preach or a point of interest, I would normally mark that point of interest. Now, over the years, I've been to a lot of wallows and a lot of preachers and a lot of points of interest. If I want to go back to them in a couple of years' time, it's really hard to remember which one's which on which hill. So it's handy that you can take a photo of that and tag it to that mark. It's also, the coordinates are then embedded on that photo, so that's great. So you can take photos to the device, tag them to that, and then you can share them with other devices or your buddies, or back them up on your computer when you get home. The camera, I thought, would be nice as a backup to perhaps if my phone went flat or something like that. The camera is, to be honest, it's terrible. The low light is non-existent. Yeah, just the handling of it, the refresh rate, yeah, I think the camera, if you're gonna put a camera in it and charge accordingly for the camera, you'd want to make it a fairly decent camera, at least the equivalent of what we've got, say, in our pocket on our iPhones. Alright, so from a hunter's point of view, there's a few good things in this that are in the other devices that can really help you out as a hunter. So a few features like this does have sight and go, which I use a lot for both navigating and helping us locate down game. So that's a really good feature that they've kept in there. Compass in this is great, so that's really powerful. You are going to need a rangefinder to get that level of accuracy. Keep that in mind. So sight and go, that's in there, beauty. So as we know, out in the heavy scrub and the bush, UHF radio is only going to go so far. You just don't get much of a bounce. So obviously line of sight, they're great. In the same gully, they're fantastic. But if you go on a heavily terrained area and you switch systems, more often than not, you're going to lose contact with your buddy. So one of the main reasons that we can use this is past the UHF range. If we drop out of range and we can't get in touch with each other, we can message each other directly from here. So let's say I'm out hunting with my buddy, I've been talking to him all morning, he drops off the radar, don't think much of it, but I get back to camp and I think, hey, what's going on? I can easily jump on here and message, say, hey man, you doing all right? What's going on? And when he replies to me, I'm going to get his exact location. So if he's carrying out a deer, I could come and help, or if if he had injured himself or something like that, you've got that reach as well. So that's great when we're out in the field to keep everyone safe. It's got a great barometer. So as we know, from a hunting point of view, watching that, keep an eye on the barometer. If you're hunting during some big weather systems, that can really have a big play on game. So keeping an eye on that barometer, and you can have that grid up on your dashboard so it can just play over the top of your navigation. So that's a handy feature. And obviously the ability to reach out to the outside world in a non-emergency situation. You can tell the missus that you're not coming home for an extra day because you're having such a good time, things like that. Just quickly guys, if you are enjoying the video, you're getting a bit out of it, go ahead, hit that like button, or even better, subscribe to us. It does help the channel keep going, and we can keep creating content and delivering this kind of stuff for you guys. We'll just touch on compatibility. So all the Iridium devices, the Mini, the InReach, the Montanas, the 66i, they can all communicate to each other. Now, They are on your phone. You can tether this to your phone and use it directly from your phone through the Earthmate app, or you can do it straight from the device. Now that's sending out and going to other devices. This can also send out to any mobile device. So if someone doesn't have one of these, or they're at home and you just want to keep in contact, of course you can communicate with them via their mobile to your device the whole time. In addition to that, they can also send to an active email. So anyone that's got sitting in front of the computer, if they were say at work or something, you can converse with them via their email to your device. So I've 3 ways to talk. Now, I can't find a way, from what I've found, I can't find a way that they will talk to the rhinos. So they're obviously not going to have UHF in them. Another feature that some people might be interested in is that this is compatible with Garmin's dog collars. So if you've got a sporting dog and you've got one of those T5s or the T3 collars, you can sync this up and see those dog collars and basically use it like the alpha unit. This is a really robust unit. You've got your tough glass on top, rubber armor all over, IPX7 submersible, waterproof, they are shockproof, thermal, all that kind of stuff. A quick look at connections. It's a little bit old school. They've left that USB 2 in there instead of, say, USB-C. I would have liked to have seen that being upgraded. That's on the cover under there. You've got an external aerial, which is a great feature. I wish they put that into the Rhino. So if you're in a vehicle, you can plug in the additional car aerial into that, or car cradle into that, so that's great. And not much else on it. You've got your SOS button and your on and off button, and everything else is done on the screen or via your app. Now, one thing to talk about is there's a bit of smoke and mirrors going on with the advertising of these units, and to be honest, it's left a bit of bad taste in my mouth. It just, before you buy this, I know it's up to the individual to look through the advertising and see what's there, but I just think that Garmin have deliberately made a few claims in their marketing that's as soon as you buy the device, it becomes apparent, even in the manual, it becomes apparent that they've tried to do a little bit of a shifty on us here. So one thing that was quite frustrating was the setup. Being that I've had a few devices, and I'd say I'm a pretty technical savvy kind of guy, it took us a painful 2.5 hours to get this thing running. Now, you first of all needed a computer that was obviously all up to date and on an active Wi-Fi network, and then after jumping a few hoops on the computer and syncing up the device and then doing the update and firmware on the device as you'd expect, which crashed numerous times, and finally got that happening. Then it directed us over to the mobile app, and then you had to basically do this whole same thing through the mobile. So you had to have an active phone on a plan that was all working as well, and then finished it back off on the computer. Now, if you were off-grid or somewhere and you bought this to be away, you want to make sure you've got obviously a laptop computer and a phone and the device all charged, ready to rock and roll. It was not very intuitive, and I'd say that that's something that needs to be looked at to make the setup a lot easier. So that's it, guys, the Montana 750i. Hopefully we can get back out there and make good use of these soon. Fingers crossed this corona thing blows over and we're all back to a bit of normality. So till then, stay safe, guys. Happy hunting. Hope to see you out there soon. Take care, guys.